Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a full review to knock out for you. This is a loaner from ScreaminPirateEDC. He sent this to a couple of my buddies, and it's now made its way to me. After me, I think it's going to Brandon, Everyday Minimalist, so you can check it out on his channel next as well. But this is the Mac 2 3.5. So Mcnees Knives, Jared Mcnees, has been making the Mac 2 for a while now. I've almost picked one up a couple of times. There's some really cool configurations, especially that they do with like really cool laser work and stuff. But it's a little US made folder in good materials, and I like that. I like the USA made knives in particular. I want to support that. I like that that's a thing. But the Mac 2, I always felt would be a little bit smaller than I would prefer. That was kind of the main critique I heard about it from a number of my friends, was like, it's great, but it's just a little too small. So this is a bigger version of it. This is the 3.5, so it's a 3.5-inch bladed version. I think the Mac 2 is just a 3-inch blade, maybe even sub 2 or sub 3 inches, but I don't know. This is 3.5, so it's more like spot on, like full size folder or regular, not oversized, not huge, but this is about down the line of what most people would consider like full size, this 3.5-inch blade. So when I unboxed this, I honestly expected it to be bigger. I've never really spent any time with the smaller version. So just because this is a bigger version of something, I guess in my brain, it's expecting it to feel even larger than it did, but it's not that big of a knife. This is still like just kind of like, I'm just getting 4 fingers on it, not a ton of extra room. The blade to handle ratio is really good. That's part of that. But the blade doesn't feel, I don't know. I feel like some 3.5-inch knives, maybe just because the handles are much bigger, feel so much more commanding than this. And when it's open, it doesn't feel like a small knife. Nothing about this feels, oh, like it's little. I just, maybe because I know it's a bigger version of something, it had that effect on me. So I actually screenshot it as well. In my unboxing, there were a few things I didn't know, and I talked to Brad about it. So Brad purchased this knife, ScreaminPirateEDC, who will be linked down below. He purchased this knife at Blade Show. This is one of only 9 prototypes that are hand ground. He put some Delrin bearings in this, so it's not running exactly the same as it would from stock, I guess. Release date is estimated for October, which is coming right up. I know they're working on these right now. Did I call him Jared Mcnees? It's Jonathan Mcnees. I feel like I always mess that up, and I don't know why. I follow him on Instagram. Seems like a really cool maker, and his knives seem really nice. This is evidence of that, but Jonathan Mcnees. The production ones are going to be stone washed and machine ground. This is hand ground, and it's a belt satin. So that's going to be a difference for the production ones. Price will be around $500. And the pouch that he sent this in was just from Brad. It's a taco pouch. He put it in to protect it. So that's not necessarily the packaging that these will come in from Mcnees. All right. So now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about, I guess I'll start by how much I've used and experienced this knife, because I think that's important to say, and then we'll get into all my typical stuff, ergos, carry, cutting, all that. I've only carried this knife 3 or 4 times, and each time it hasn't necessarily been for a full day, but I've just wanted to make sure I got this into a variety of different pockets, carried it around a little. It's a prototype of a knife that, I don't know, I didn't really want to use it hard. It just didn't feel right to do so. Brad said I could use and carry it, but I didn't want to go out and baton with it or do anything crazy. So all I really did with it was open some boxes, test on some paper to see how the kind of fineness of the edge did and the grind, and then process some cardboard for the dumpster, and that's it. No zip ties, I don't think. I didn't cut an apple with it. I didn't do anything funky. I just did some relatively light-duty EDC stuff with it, but for all those things, it did well, and we'll talk about that in cutting. So that's where I'm coming from. I've carried it a couple of times. It's been in a few pockets, and that's about it. So let's go through materials, and then we'll jump into what I think. Blade steel on this guy, CPM 20 CV. I like that choice. Feels good to me. 20 CV is a good steel. I dig it. I worry that the grind is going to be different on the production ones, because this grind is sweet. This is a really nice hollow. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, it'll be stonewashed in production from what I've heard, and 20 CV is sticking though. We've got thumb studs, we've got titanium frame lock, so just plain titanium show side. It's been anodized blue. The hardware, I am not sure whether it's steel or titanium or what. I don't know why I said titanium so weird there. I'm not sure, but we've got standoffs back here. Fairly simple construction. Lock side. There's no lock bar insert or anything, but I haven't felt any lock stick whatsoever on it. No over travel stop. I don't know. Some people insist on those things being present. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, I'd prefer that it's there, but I've experienced plenty of knives now that don't have those things and function just great without them. So anyway, just simple titanium frame lock, carbonized face. There is some internal weight relief, just a bunch of kind of holes milled out in there. It looks a little bit like Swiss cheese inside because it's more deliberate than that. It's not random like Swiss cheese. It looks organized, but just a lot of holes drilled out in there. Still feels kind of weighty to me. It's a fairly thick titanium that they used for the scales. Blade stock is pretty thick, so it's a little bit kind of chunky, but considering how chunky it feels, I can tell that they did do some weight relief at the same time. Like it's not just overly heavy for no reason. So yeah, titanium, 20 CV, some standoffs, bent pocket clip, and that's what we're working with. All right, so let's start with ergos. Ergos on this knife, I like, but I'm not in love with, if that makes sense. So if I choke kind of back to here into this like main groove where it seems like my finger is supposed to land, it feels pretty good. This is the most comfortable that the knife feels in hand. Nothing is poking me, nothing is prodding me. It doesn't feel like the greatest knife I've ever gripped onto, but it feels good. I do like it. I just feel like I'm a little far away from the blade, and then it does seem pretty deliberately like my finger can go up here too, right? Like it's almost even kind of grooved out a little bit for it. The problem is when I come up here, which is where I naturally kind of find myself wanting to be, it's less comfortable. Just the way that these next fingers land on the rest of the handle, this hump becomes a little bit cumbersome for me. Granted, that's my hands. Everyone's hands are different. This could be supremely comfortable for some people. But for me, it's just not perfect. I wish, I don't know, maybe there wasn't a hump there, or this hump wasn't so pronounced or something, just so I could feel a little bit more neutral in here, because I want my hand to come all the way up here. That's where I like to do my work with a knife most of the time, is like really choked up kind of next to the blade. So it doesn't quite sing for me in that way. But it's comfortable. It's not like a problem either. And maybe that's even overly nitpicky, but I don't know. It's not perfect. It's just okay. In a hammer grip, totally fine. Saber grip, fine. Again, especially if I'm back here, it's all much more comfortable. I like the way it rests in my palm too. When I'm back here, when I'm up here, it just feels a little bit wonky. Reverse grip, draw cut feels totally nice to me. That's actually quite comfortable. Reverse grip is very comfortable. I really like the way this end of the handle is finished because that's very nice in hand. Reverse grip draw cut, even that is fine. That's pretty comfortable. So it's neutral enough that a variety of grips are working. It's just really like, it's a bummer because to me that's like the most important grip is kind of like choked forward in a saber grip. That's where I most want to use a knife, and for that to be kind of a weak point for my hands in the handle isn't my favorite. But again, it's good. I'm being nitpicky here. Let's talk action, because action is a good point on this knife. Again, Brad did put in Delrin bearings on here, so it's not running the factory setup, or not even factory, the shop setup. But with these Delrin bearings, goodness. For a thumb stud knife, it is awesome to middle finger flick, like really good. It's very drop shutty. The thumb flick is super nice and poppy and snappy. The detent is set really, really well for this being a thumb stud knife. It's just dialed for it. Really, really good. I hope that the kind of production ones of these, again, I don't know whether you call that production. I guess it would still be production, but it'd be small batch production because he's doing it all in-house. I don't know how much of the machine is mechanized or he's having things cut for him or what. I really am not sure. But I don't think he's calling these customs. I don't think it's all being hand done. I think there's an element of production. So maybe mid-tech, I don't know, call it what you want. But when the production ones come, I hope that the detent feels just like this and that they're this silky smooth, because goodness, it is really, really good in the action department. As thumb stud knives go, it is excellent. And thumb studs are just not at the top of my list of knives that I find really fun typically, but this one is fun. It's very nice to fidget with. I dig it in that way. Let's talk carry next. So carrying this knife for me, honestly, is kind of meh. I prefer deep carry. I prefer thin. I prefer lightweight most of the time. Especially for this size, it feels pretty compact when the knife is closed because the handle isn't huge for a 3.5-inch blade folder. It just feels, for it being the size that it is, a little bit hefty and a little bit, not really blocky. Like everything is chamfered well, but it's just kind of a chunk in pocket, if that makes sense. But it's not bad. Like it carries fine. I just would prefer it if it was a little bit lighter, a little bit thinner in this direction, and if the pocket clip was deep carry. That said, Brad also mentioned to me that this pocket clip is going to change a little bit for the production ones, and so it's going to be a little bit bigger, I think, maybe even wider. So maybe that'll change the feel of it a little bit. I did not love this pocket clip. A, because it's not deep carry, but B, I just found like in and out of pocket, it was fine, didn't present any real issues, but it wasn't a dream. And I didn't find that it just, I don't know, I didn't like it compared to a lot of other pocket clips out there. So carry is just okay to me. It goes in your pocket, it stays there just fine. It's not the heaviest knife in the world, it's not the chunkiest, it's not so big that it's annoying. Like it carries okay. It's just not like also a dream to carry for a 3.5-inch blade titanium frame lock folder. I've carried quite a few that felt more comfortable to me. So take that for what it's worth. And that leaves us with cutting performance. Now again, this one is a hand ground prototype, so I don't know whether the production ones are going to cut this well, but goodness, I really like this hollow grind and the way that it's set up. You have even like the slightest bit of a recurve in here. I don't know if that will be present on the production ones either. That might just be because it's hand ground, but the way that this hollow is done, how thin it gets right behind the edge, is very nice. It's a nice deep hollow. You've got a nice good looking swedge up here and then a pretty usable tip, although it does come, the tip feels a little bit like stout to me. The way that it terminates, maybe like it could have been slightly pointier, I think, and benefited a little bit from that. But the edge that's on here, the way it's ground, all of it, just in terms of how it slices through material like cardboard, it's excellent. Even on paper, it was really easy to do tiny little shavings to make clean slices. Just feels really, really good in use to me. So I hope that the machine ground ones are like this, because this blade feels great, especially being like, it's a pretty thick, robust blade stock. It feels meaty. The fact that it's as good at slicing as it is welcome to me. It doesn't feel like, oh, we picked a meaty blade stock and then we just kept it super thick because we want people to pry with it. No, it feels more realistic to me in its estimation of what it'll be used for than that. It feels really, really nice for that kind of fine use task stuff. I don't know how much sense that makes. Anyway, I've liked cutting with it. I feel like it does pretty well. And yeah, it's a fun knife. I think honestly the biggest takeaway I have of it on this one is the action. It feels really nice. The lockup is good. The build feels well put together. It's a nice knife in terms of the way it's all done here. The question of whether I would get one for myself, honestly, I don't think so at the moment. That may change. Maybe this will leave and I'll miss it. Or maybe there'll be a really cool configuration that'll pull me in on the production ones. But I like this knife in a number of ways, but I don't love it. The ergos aren't perfect for my hand. The way it carries doesn't really like bring me joy. And it cuts well. I like the blade, but there are other knives that I have that cut as well. You know, I don't feel like for me, this knife really grabs me like other knives do. And again, it's fair if that changes. I'm open to it, but I'm glad I experienced it. It's really nice. And I like that there's another good USA built folder coming to market in the 3.5-inch blade range. I think that it's a good thing, in my opinion, if there's more competition there. And I want to add fuel to that fire, if nothing else. But I don't see myself getting one. So I guess that kind of is what it is. Anyway, I'm glad I got to check it out. I've really enjoyed it. Brad will be linked down below, Screamin' Pirate. And if I can remember, I'll link the Mcnees site below as well, so you can check these out there. And yeah, they've been posting on their Instagram, the Mcnees Instagram, that they're building these right now. They're working on them, so they're right around the corner. They're coming soon, and I hope that it does well for them. I can see a lot of people loving this knife. I can see it being, like, a lot of people love the little one, just the regular Mac 2. But this being a slightly larger version of it, I think is going to scratch the itch for even more people than that little guy does. And people are justified in loving this. I get it. I think it's just not totally like, it's not for me. Not every knife has to be. Anyway, thanks for checking it out. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate it, guys.